Hey, YouTube. I just did a stream and it didn't work.
Hey.
Can you guys hear this? You guys hear this intro music? Yeah, you can hear it. All right. Got an intro now. Mouse click. Click. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Acceptable Podcast. Today, we're doing something a little different than the interviews. We're going to be doing some comic stuff. Some Devilman versus Batman, which is an incredible story that we're making up on the spot. That's how you know it's going to be really good.
When last we left our hero,
Yeah. Well,
Batman
wait.
just active. Oh, okay. All
Wait.
right.
I'm not showing it just yet. Just want to say thank you to everybody for coming to our interview yesterday with Dan Avidan.
Thanks, Dan, for coming.
And thanks, Dan. Yeah, of course. That was really great. And if you missed it, you can go to acceptablepodcast.com and it'll link you to our YouTube channel where you can check out all our interviews, which is 2, and our Batman vs. Devilman series up until now. There's 3 videos up.
If you want to check out the next interview, on March 19th, we will be interviewing Brandon Jones, the founder of GameTrailers.com and Easy Allies over on Patreon. He's an amazing dude. He's done tons of stuff, so that should be a really cool interview.
Oh, yeah, and I forgot to say, my name's Dave Raposa.
Oh, and my name is Dan Warren.
Together we run the publishing company Acceptable Comics. Join us every other week between the interviews on Mondays where we do drawings.
Currently, it's Batman versus Devilman, but who knows where it's going to go.
And this week we're sponsored by ourselves, of course.
Always.
So you can go to acceptablecomics.com today for free preview of our books, available for pre-order now. And yeah, let's get into doing some manga drawing. Turned it down.
Since last we spoke, that wasn't an interview. We had a huge, crazy thunderstorm, blackout, hurricane situation here. Tons of trees down, some cool power lines down everywhere. Whole bunch of people died. Went and stayed with my parents. Went and stayed with my parents for 2 days because we had no power here, and they have a generator. And our hometown is like it's just a mess. Like, I sent Dave a video. It's just crazy. But yeah, so we're getting another storm on Wednesday, so hopefully it's just as dope.
Yeah, you get another storm. Wow.
Yeah.
That's going to be pretty exciting.
Pretty good.
Just to see what you lose this time.
I know. I can't
what
wait
you
to
lose,
find
who
out.
you lose, and how you lose it.
I hope I lose a person this time instead of just stuff.
Yeah.
Last time I lost like $300 worth of food. That's about it. And some work that I left open on the computer.
Okay.
We will not do Squarespace sponsorships, Clank work. I mean, never say never, I guess. Squarespace is your one-stop solution for building an amazing website. Please sponsor us, Squarespace. No, we're big fans of just sponsoring the stuff that you make yourself. That's like, when we listen to podcasts, that's always the stuff that we respond to better.
Well, it's like if you want to support somebody directly, then that's always the best way to do it. And, if they have some kind of product or whatever, then just go buy that thing.
Sunny Boy asks, so what did you eat for breakfast? Well, all the food I had here is rotten now from not having power for days. So there's one diner a town over from here that has power that I could find. And I went there and I got some eggs and some wheat toast. What did you have?
Sausages, eggs, put some hot sauce on the eggs. Had diarrhea twice, and now I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
There's something about, like, I don't know if you guys know anything about this, but when you have diarrhea first thing in the morning, it gives you, like, this really positive...
Yeah, it cleans you out.
Yeah, you feel really good about the rest of the day.
Diarrhea is not in you for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
You already get that part over with.
Yeah, it's the best part, man.
Well, unless you have a relapse. But
Diarrhea and Devilman.
Scuttlefuck asks, Dan, have you ever kissed Dave? Dave, have you ever kissed Dan? Yeah, on
Yeah.
both ways.
Yes.
Absolutely, multiple times. There's probably photos on Facebook.
I think there definitely are.
Yeah, I think there are. There's photos of us kissing other dudes too in Bali. Anyway,
There might be too many photos.
there's a lot of photos of that. Anyway.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
Hey, if anyone's listening that doesn't know, you can ask any question you like in the chat. Just tag us at Steve Lichman so we see it, we don't miss it. But we're happy to talk about whatever, answer any questions you might have, respond to stuff. You know. Salty NM just subscribed.
What?
17 months in a row. Man,
Salty NM, thank you so much. You creamed us.
thank you.
Well, we haven't talked about creaming in a long time,
No, we haven't.
but it's all we have, guys.
Yeah, it's one of the only things that keeps us going. So, you know.
Yeah. If you have any
the first
questions about any of this stuff, or just, guests that we have, or people that you want to have on, things like that, too. Down.
Yeah, definitely. For the first time in a long time, I didn't sleep for 2 days straight, and I forgot how terrible that feels.
Well, just
That's
because
one
of
of
the
the-
storm?
Yeah, just because I couldn't sleep at my parents' house. It was too weird.
Dan has like a weird haunted house where like
Yeah.
it's almost like the walls absorb the light. I don't
Yeah, it's
understand what it
always
is.
dark. No matter how many lights you turn on at my parents' house, it's always dim.
Yeah, it was so
It's
crazy because like when I was a kid and I go over there, it was like this. I don't know if any of you can
You feel
relate.
tired the second you walk in.
Yeah, and then like I don't know, like the perpetual Sunday. Like I don't know if that like applies
Yeah.
to everybody, but
Well, everyone goes into the house and they instantly feel tired, and then they sit down in the living room and watch TV and fall asleep. And it's like, I don't have a TV anymore. I got rid of it a long time ago. And going back to somewhere where that's all people do is just like, I hate it so much.
it's weird.
It's just weird. But yeah, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep at all. But it's weird to think that I used to do that all the time. Like out of college, freelancing, just like, oh, I'll stay awake for 3 days and work.
I know.
Nope.
I used to
Nope.
do that too. I used to do that to like reset my sleep schedule. I'd be like, well, I'm
Dude,
going to
you
stay
do
up,
that.
all night tonight. And then next time when I go to sleep, I'll be able to just black out and I'll reset everything. Like I used to reset, like if I had a deadline and I'd work all night, that's how I would come back around. And I just could never do that now.
Chris asks, Skull and Shark when? 2021, 2022.
It's crazy to think that that's probably the actual
Yeah, that's my best ballpark. Yeah,
time. Like really, time just goes away when you
like
start making stuff.
I'm assuming we're gonna start it in the fall or the winter, maybe if plans don't change, and that means it's probably gonna come out 2021, 2022.
Yeah. Yeah, we still are planning on it. It's not something that we're like abandoning.
No, we actually just redid the whole script again, and we're kind of happier with this version than we have been with the past 8.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite part of diarrhea is the nightmare you have and the toilet bowl disappears with the push of a button, leaving pristine white porcelain. Cathartic.
Yeah, I like the pain followed by pleasure of it.
Yeah, it's good. That weird, horrible feeling in the stomach followed by the relief.
The Hellraiser feeling.
Yeah, exactly.
Pain and pleasure intertwined.
Intertwined. Hey, have any tips about how to go about deciding how you should lay out the frames on a page? I'm struggling with this aspect of comic things, Steve Lichman.
I mean, I'm not like super good at it, but I would say whatever you're putting emphasis on is what you want to structure around, and it depends on how you want something to feel as well. Like if you're going into something and you're saying like, I want them to pause here, I want there to be a dramatic moment here. Like anytime you want to put emphasis on something, you make that a little bit bigger, or you kind of like you want the reader to like rest on it. So you got to think in terms of like pacing, of how long it takes your eye to kind of travel across a page. Stuff like that's important for how you structure it. And then in terms of like one thing that's across the board, kind of in like scripts, is the rule of threes.
Mm.
So like the rule of threes says that like every joke is kind of like one, two, three. So like you'll say like three different examples, and the third one's the funny one. And the same thing goes for like a list that you're making for something. Like it's generally made in threes for whatever reason. It's just like a number that's satisfying to us. So when you're doing conversations and things, um, you probably want to do something like that in terms of like panel layout. Do like three, three, three panels for whatever's about to happen. Like what about this, this, and this, and that would be like structurally there. So that's kind of how I think about it in terms of like conversations and things, and then the action is just like depends on how fast paced you want it. So you use like angular panels, break the walls of the panels for certain impacts, and to make people feel like they're coming towards you. You can break the panel with somebody like flying in. For like a dramatic shot, like what's in here, I'll kind of go through what this is. So this is just like a shot, reverse shot at the top of Devilman talking to Batman on the ground, and then Batman in the rain, and then angles here for emphasis on like that split screen, like what anime thing, and then this huge wide reveal shot for the giant mech, and that's kind of how I pace this one out. But yeah, it just depends what you want to put a focus on in the story.
Gesso Art asks, "How do you deal with hair loss, frowny face?" I don't know. I
You,
mean, I
you
don't deal with that
just
personally.
you just be a strong man and suck it up. That's all you can do.
If I was to start losing hair, I'd probably just shave my head and lean fully into it.
Yeah, that's one of those things that like you can't.
Yeah, it just is what it is. It's like, okay, well, it's not going to come back, so I'm just going to be the guy that shaves his head now.
Yeah, you just embrace whatever happens to you. You lean
Yeah.
into it fully. That's a rule that applies to everything.
Right.
It's the weakest thing you can do is not own your imperfections.
No, nothing looks worse than trying to cover up something that's obvious
Yeah.
because it just broadcasts this insecurity feeling to everybody who can see you. So it's like, just lean into it. Have you ever experienced a quarter life crisis? And if so, what was it like, slash, how did you get through it? I'm 24 and I haven't achieved any goals pertaining to art, and it's killing me inside. Birthday's in August. I'm dealing with a version of that right now, but I don't know if it's a quarter. It's like a third life crisis or a half life crisis if my genetics are what they are. But, I probably won't get past 70. But anyway, uh, no, yeah, it's weird. It's like, I think a lot of people, especially art people, spend so much time working in their 20s that they don't build a life necessarily, or as much of a life as they should. And then all their friends start getting married and having kids and getting houses. And then suddenly it's like, oh, wait, I don't have anyone around anymore. And it's this weird feeling of like, once you've done enough work to take some time off, there's nobody there to spend it with.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I think that's very common for people that do creative stuff. You just overcompensate with the work early on so you don't have to do it later, and then you know you end up kind of isolated. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I sort of back that getting through the middle video we did 6 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, that
That
was like when it
was
was fresh.
Yeah, that was a quarter life crisis for sure. If you want to listen to both of us going through a quarter life crisis, go to YouTube and type in freelance talks getting through the middle, and you'll find an old talk me and Dave did back when we were doing live stream that I saved on YouTube, where Dave has just gone through a breakup and is having a crisis with work where he realizes he doesn't like what he's doing, and I have been forced to move into a small apartment because my roommate basically fucked me over. I don't have any money in savings. I'm single, and I don't have any prospect of making more money, and I'm going into debt. And it's just the two of us talking about it openly for like 2 hours. So that's what I would recommend if you want to hear a broader answer to that question.
Yeah, if you want to hear it when it's like happening,
Yeah, in
that
real
that
time.
moment is frozen in time in that video.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah, that was a. I mean, I felt that before. I mean, obviously we just said that, but like, uh, I get that. You just have to. I don't know. It's like being decisive and having like a plan to get out and not just being not like standing still. Like you don't want to feel bad for yourself
mhm,
and be like, oh, I'm stuck in this place and fuck. It's like if you're making moves, then you're making moves and you're gonna get out. It's like just a matter of time, just a matter of putting in the effort. But if you sit around and feel like shit, then the chances are that yeah, you're not gonna get out of that kind of place. It
right.
like the only option is just to put in the effort to get out, and that's just you putting in the work to do something that you already need to do. Otherwise you wouldn't be having like a crisis.
Yeah, I mean the good thing is that you're aware that there's a problem.
Yeah,
I mean, like that's the first step to real, like, identifying the issue is the first part of solving it. So like you're already on the path to fixing it. It's just, you'd be in worse shape if you didn't think anything was wrong
yeah,
and you
exactly.
realized it later.
Tons of people are like that where they just go, they don't even know that they didn't do anything until they're old.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people like that who, you know, they played too many video games, they did nothing, they just ate
At
junk
least you figure,
food.
yeah. At least you're figuring it out now and not midlife crisis where it's like, because having that shit happen at 50, I can't even imagine how much harder it is to deal with. I think that's why guys lose their minds
Hmm.
because you can't deal with it at that point in life. It's like way too late.
Yeah, you don't want to.
No,
You
not
want
at
to get
all.
ahead of that kind of thing.
Yeah. Chris asks, do you do a lot of storyboarding for movies, Dave? And if so, which movies?
I don't do a lot of storyboarding for movies. I mainly do concept art for film, and I'll do like key scene kind of things. So like if there's a shot in a movie that's supposed to be important, then that might be something I'm asked to do. But I've worked on. If you go to my website, you can check this stuff out. You go to daveraposa.com. I have a bunch of my film stuff up, but I've done a lot of concept where I'm pretty much just like fleshing out ideas. Like I worked on the Ninja Turtles 2, then designed a bunch of characters for that. And when I'm working on something like that, um, I'm more or less just like working with the basic idea of how they want to adapt a character, and then in the keyframes you're kind of doing something like a storyboard where you're showing like what this one scene will look like. I do some like actiony things to show how characters will move, but yeah, not a ton of storyboards straight up.
Sand Gorilla followed this up with that was a garbage question. I apologize, but I don't think it's a garbage question, so I'm going to read it anyway. It says, "Hey guys, I'm starting to enjoy drawing more, and it's scary. I used to not like it as much. Is this some sort of Stockholm syndrome?" No, it's just welcome to the world of investment. Like once you put a certain amount of time and invest a certain amount of energy into getting better at something, you appreciate it more, and it means more to you because you've invested more in it. So it's like I used to hate going to the gym, but now if I don't go, I feel like shit because it feels like a personal failure. And I've started to enjoy it because you get better at something the more you do it,
Yeah,
the more it becomes part of your routine. Like if you told me to build a clock, I wouldn't know what the hell to do. But after trying to do it for like a month, I'd probably really respect the process and understand it better and be into it and be more interested because the more time you put into something, the more you're going to care about it by default. But
yeah,
yeah. So yeah, it just means you know, you value your time and you spend a lot of it on drawing. So, favorite superhero with Speedo as a bottom, like Superman and Black Panther don't count because their tights match the Speedo. Oh, Spider Man and Black Panther don't count because their tights match the Speedo. Really been thinking about this one lately, boys. Favorite superhero with a Speedo? Um,
what's his face? Who's the dude from uh, the ocean?
Oh, Aquaman.
No,
Namor.
Namor.
Okay. Um,
I'm not going off of like the comics, obviously, because I didn't
yeah,
remember
his
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 name.
costume is just a speedo.
But yeah, that's like Speedo, the costume, and somehow people can still make him look pretty cool.
Pulls it off. I'm gonna go with a supervillain, even though you didn't ask that, and say that one version of Craven the Hunter that has a speedo, because that's fucking amazing that he'd be hunting stuff in a speedo.
Yeah, it's really cool.
I heard an interview with Fiona Staples, and she said that she splits 50-50 the profits with Brian Vaughn. She does more work, in my opinion, slash pencils, inks, colors, although he has a bigger name. You guys think 50-50 is fair? I think it's different for every partnership. We have a double agreement where we're 50-50 owners of the IP. So, like, if we were to sell the IP, we'd both split the profits 50-50. But on the actual process of making the books, I know from freelancing that drawing takes longer than coloring, even though they both take a long time. So Dave gets more of the money because he does more of the work objectively. I think that might be harder to explain if the two partners where one of them's a writer and one's an artist, because the writer might not understand how much work goes into the art and the artist might not understand how much work goes into the writing. So they might just agree to split it 50-50 for the sake of the partnership and not argue with each other.
Yeah,
But coming from it, knowing how long the drawing takes, because I do that too, I know Dave's doing more work, so he gets more money on it. Because I just think that's fair, and
yeah.
we're
I mean, like
obviously good friends
if it
forever.
went either way, it'd be the same thing. It's like
Yeah.
you wouldn't you wouldn't like on certain days when we're doing something like let's say we're working for a client and there's a writing section on like a certain thing. Like if I'm doing something else and Dan's doing like the writing stuff, then
Mhm.
for like that kind of time, it's like even though we're both doing the same kind of thing, like he's gonna get
Yeah,
that for the writing,
which
like a hundred
happens all the
percent.
time. That
You
that
know?
happens with us all the time. Where if Dave's preoccupied, I'll take point on something, and that'll more of the share will go to me, and vice versa.
Right.
If I'm busy, Dave will take point. And I think really the answer to the question is there's no percentage split that's fair across the board. It's always down to the partnership, and you just have to honestly, like, if you're willing to be partners with somebody and do something, you have to objectively look at it and go, am I really doing half the work? Am I doing more than half? Am I doing less than half?
Yeah.
And if you can't have a conversation about that with the person, they're probably not a good person to be in a partnership with. But it's hard to look from the outside because you're saying that you feel like she does more of the work. It's tough to say that from the outside because you don't know what both of them are bringing to the table. But yeah, I'd say it's different for everybody. There's no across the board thing.
No. Plus, if you want I would say that for like I don't know their situation obviously, but
Hmm.
I would say for things to be able to continue indefinitely, I don't think that's a stable way of doing it. To divide it up like that,
Yeah.
because it's like if somebody is doing it, it's like eventually somebody's like you can say you don't feel that way, but you're gonna resent them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's what destroys a partnership faster than anything.
Yeah, so like honesty in everything you do, you know. I mean, unless she's real well off or something, maybe that's part of it. I don't know.
Right.
Maybe that's not a concern.
It's also just a respect thing
Right.
for a lot of people. Um how long did it take you guys to be able to sustain yourselves with freelance work even if you were just barely cutting it? So I guess let's go from not doing any freelance to the point where you didn't have to worry about paying a bill even though it was stressful.
How long did it take?
Yeah.
I'm kind of far from the mic, aren't
I
I?
think it took me 3 years,
Longer than that, dude.
4 years. I'm trying to think of because I was already freelancing in college, and by the time I graduated, I was making enough to just barely pay my bills.
Yeah, like for me, it must be uh, 5 years.
Maybe. Yeah, it might. Yeah, it might be closer to 4 or 5.
I'm thinking 5 years because yeah, like
Okay, so I was making no money before college. I was in college for 4 years, and the year
Hmm.
after college, I was just barely able to pay my bills. So I guess it is 5 years.
Yeah, it took a long time, and yeah, I mean, it was never easy, and
And then it was like a struggle for the next 3.5 years.
yeah, because I think like up until the 5 year mark, you're still kind of like, you're occasionally like chasing people down still. I mean, like you're
Yeah,
still doing that. Like
a lot of yeah, I'm still chasing clients down
that
for
shit
huge
still
amounts of money.
happens.
Yeah, it's just an unfortunate reality of freelance that some clients don't pay you on time or at all. Have
It's like,
you
yeah,
experienced any
Wild West.
darkness lately? Oh, sorry, what?
I was just saying, like, it's still kind of like Wild West territory.
Oh, yeah, sure. It's the worst.
Any darkness? Well, you had down power lines and shit, people dying.
Yeah, he says, I kiss the darkness talks. Like stories from the past, too. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm in a pretty great, terrible place lately, but that's why we're doing Gauntlet of Goals.
Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about it on here before, so I don't want to like repeat the whole thing, but in case they haven't heard it, I mean,
Yeah, there's a bunch of new people, I think, coming
I'm
from
at a
the
point,
interviews.
I'm at a point where I'm kind of too old to meet new people, or at least too old to meet new people in the ways that I used to meet new people, where all the friends that I have are either married, have kids, or bought a house, or all three. And like the only other friend I have is Dave, but he doesn't live here, so I can't like go out and do stuff with him. So I can't meet new friends through my old friends because all of them are married with kids and they have houses now, so they don't go out anymore. They don't do stuff anymore. I can't go hang out with them in a group and meet new people that way. And I'm not in college, so I can't meet new people in class and hanging out afterwards and in the foyers and stuff. That's gone. And I can't meet new people at a job because I work from home and I'm self-employed. So all the avenues of meeting new people are kind of gone to me. So I have to like somehow figure out ways to do it because being in your 30s is too old to go hang out with like 19-year-old, 20-year-old college kids and be like, yo, what's it like? It's just weird. It's weirdly old enough, just on the mark, where it's strange. And it's also too young to just hang out with only married people and stuff because once all your friends are married and have kids, they start to treat you differently, even if they don't intend to. If you're not partnered with somebody and also pursuing a kid and a home and stuff, like you become a weird, oh, something didn't work out with that guy. And like you stop getting invited to things because you're single and everybody else is like partnered up and like, doing something. So you start to get left by the wayside as this goes forward. And I'm guessing it just gets worse and worse and worse as you get older until eventually there's just nobody. So that's what I'm guessing from what I've observed. That's just what I'm guessing. So I'm in this
I
weird
just
point
like
of
the
life.
logic, the like
Yeah.
calm logic of it.
Yeah. So I'm in this weird point where I go, oh, if I don't seriously change some stuff about my life and try to meet somebody, I'm going to die alone because it's already insanely hard for me to meet new girls because all the girls my age, let's get into the realness. This is going to be real bad. Let's just dive right into it.
I
All the
can't
girl
wait.
all the girls my age, this is just the biological reality. If they want to have a
Get
kid,
ready for
here
biological
we go.
realities, everybody.
Here's where it gets real bad. And this isn't meant to be sexist in any way. This is just the reality of it.
Uh oh.
Girl,
We're going to
girls
get
my
banned.
age, girls my age, if they want to have kids, either already have kids, which makes it tough because dating somebody with a kid, especially if the father's still in the picture, is very complicated. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm just saying it's more complicated. But if they don't have kids and they're like 32, they have a limited amount of time to have a kid. So very early on, and this has happened to me, this is why I bring it up. Very early on in the dating, there's a very awkward forced conversation where they go, "Could you see us having kids in some form?" And then you're on the spot and it's a yes or a no, but that means that every interaction you have after that conversation has to be fully committed towards we're going to have kids someday or you're wasting this person's time and you feel incredibly, or at least I do, feel incredibly guilty as a result if you're not totally into that person because you're
Batman
wasting their
versus
time.
Devilman.
I'm
Sorry.
just going to drop this.
No, keep going.
I'm just going to drop this. There's no good going from this conversation. So anyway,
I
then
just
the
like the
results are
contrast.
The only solution to that is to meet another person who's not imperative about we have to know for sure if we're going to have kids right away or I'm wasting my time dating you, which is very hard to find. Or you date down, which is awkward because dating like 22, 23, 24 year olds just feels weird and like they don't get references that you make. And it can work and sometimes it's good, but sometimes it's also very awkward. So that's the situation I'm in where I'm on a ticking clock to change some stuff about my life, my appearance, the way I interact with people, the places I go, the things I do. All that has to change. Simultaneously, I have to somehow meet somebody or die alone when I'm 60 or younger. Dave, how are you doing?
Wow, I was just enthralled. I'm listening.
There you go. So, hey, you know,
I mean,
let's
it's
dive right
not
into
like
it.
you're saying something that nobody
No,
relates to. Everybody
this is
relates to
super
that.
this is super common.
Yeah.
They just, that's the place I'm in.
Yeah.
Total honesty is the only way to deal with stuff.
Yeah. Just stand
Have
in
you
front of
studied
trucks.
shape language and illustrations? Or you just usually eyeball it and see what looks cool? Let's dive back into the questions.
Shape language. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's definite rules in like using shapes for designs. You got power shapes like triangles, and you got to pay attention to uh at least in terms of like character design, like things like that, like silhouettes and whatever. Like you can portray a lot with how a character's slumped or whatever. In that in that way, yeah, I'm always thinking about shape. And also thinking about shape and compositions of scenes because you want to be able to direct the eye around the page.
Mm-hmm.
So I think about that a lot as well. Um, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you can do compositionally with shape for design for your scenes, but
Here's a good one.
mm-hmm.
What's the filthiest thing you guys love to eat where the joy of eating it equals the filthy guilt?
Filthy Guilt should be our name for like a
Filthy
band or
guilt,
something.
yeah.
Be the real
Um,
Cradle of Filth.
see, there's guilt and then there's filthy. And the food that I feel guiltiest for eating is Chinese food, but that's not filthy.
Maybe like one time my
Nachos.
wife went away to go to Portland, Oregon, and like when she was gone, I went to the store and I got a jar of Nutella, and I like hearing the small laugh in the background.
Mm-hmm.
I got a jar of Nutella and some strawberries, but I also had Trader Joe's cookie butter,
Oh, I've heard this.
and I got bless you, Kim. I got some. What did I get? What did I put it on? There's some kind of like cookie thing. It was insane. It was some cookie, and I put cookie butter on a cookie with Nutella, and I played all of Metal Gear Solid 1,
I've been there.
and it was just like some kind of hellscape.
Where you go, I can't decide what I want on the Chinese menu, so I'll get a poo poo platter and some General Tso's chicken, and also lo mein and fried rice, and I'll also get sweet and sour chicken, and I'm gonna play Nino Kuni for 3 days straight. There you go. That's depression. That's the definition of depression.
Yeah, I wasn't even depressed. I was just like, I don't know. I just saw a snake,
Yeah,
and I needed to be a part of it.
I understand that feeling. What
Like
happened?
when you don't actually want to play a game, but like you convince yourself you do,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
and you go like, yeah, it's been a long time since I played Suikoden 2.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
I
get into that.
exactly. I did that with Okami when I had pneumonia. I went, well, this is better than nothing, I guess. I beat the whole game. It's terrible. Um, what happened to Aiden? Asks Penshivik.
They changed like I don't know exactly, but like something about how I don't know, like where his TV is against the wall or something like that. Because it's not, uh, It's not as bad as it was. If anybody, you know, doesn't remember that, Aiden, he's a little kid, lives downstairs. He screams at his television. He still does it. It's just not as loud as it was. It used to be like he was in the room screaming, and now it's a little bit less. But still, yeah. What do you think happened to Aiden, Kim?
Well, I haven't seen him in months. He's probably dead.
Yeah, he might be dead. Dead little boy down there. Dead shitty little boy.
Adrian Bauer says, "I have a friend who puts in a lot of time to improve his art. He knuckles down as often as he can get, as often as he can, given his tight situation. However, he has been at this for an incredibly long time, and he can't seem to overcome technical shortcomings. Any general help I could pass on to him? Without seeing the work, it's tough, but he's probably working on,
Say again.
probably not working on the right stuff. It sounds like
Hmm.
you might want to broaden his scope a bit and work on big picture stuff instead of focusing just on tight technical things, because that you'll get better at those with time the more you do stuff. But it sounds like you're describing like people we used to know who would just do thousands of hand studies and never actually do an illustration,
Hmm.
where they're just like, the hands aren't perfect yet, so there's no point in doing an illustration, because if I can't draw a hand, I'm wasting my time. And it's like, no, that's not true. It's better to do a flawed finished piece and learn from it than to only do studies and never make a portfolio. I don't know if that's what you're describing. That's just what it sounds like. But if that's the case, yeah, tell him to step into like a bigger pool, basically. Just do something totally different that isn't focused on the technical stuff he's freaking out about not being perfect at. And if it's not perfect, that's fine, but just get out of that technical mindset where
What?
absolute accuracy is the best.
What's that saying? I can't remember about. Like, it's about like when like people over prepare and it's procrastination.
Oh, yeah, that's like there's actually like a title for that.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what it is, but that's what it sounds like to me.
Right.
It's
It's
like
buying the
people,
sketchbook and getting all the pencils and ordering all the best stuff and never
right?
drawing in it.
Yeah, like I used to talk about that a lot for like anatomy books, where like people just kind of buy all the tools to do something. It's that thing that you've probably heard of where you look at an artist and you go like, if I only knew what kind of pen they were using, then I could, be the best. And you're like, no, that's not how it works at all. And lots of people think like that, and it's like they don't start doing something until they have every bit of whatever they need or they think they need to get started. And yeah, you can do whatever with just like minimal tools. Like you don't really need anything.
Right.
And it's always a bummer to hear that you're just like, putting off doing something with your life because you don't think you have just optimal everything to get started. And I think that's a real issue. Like I've just heard so many people say that to me, like over time, like, yeah, I'm gonna do it when I'm here and I have this and my life's like this, and you're like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
You're never gonna do it.
It's planning a perfect kitchen. I don't know. I hate that. Skittlefuck says you could become bi, Dan, and widen your options. I should just become gay. I wish it was a choice. It'd be so much easier. I could have like a really cool grinder profile with like, me being overweight with a beard that says smarter than your average bear. With like a coy winky face, like I know what's up.
You'd probably get killed on the first date
Probably, but
for
hey,
having that description.
if only. Dan, where would you go to school and how's your experience? If you're talking about college, I went to UMass Dartmouth and it sucked. It was the worst. The head of the illustration department there was a really famous illustrator in the 70s, and he will not let that go, no matter what, ever. He was the first husband of Christy Brinkley, and he brings it up all the time because she's Christy Brinkley. She left him for Billy Joel, and he never like processed that. So he's this really achieved dude from the 70s. He's done tons of really good professional stuff in the 70s and part of the 80s, but he refused to learn digital because he considers it low art. He studied at some really pretentious like French arts college that's like, you never do anything but this stuff. The classics are all that matter. And like that meme of that kind of person, he is that. So we couldn't learn entertainment art. We couldn't learn comics. We couldn't learn concept art. We couldn't learn any of this stuff because he said it was low art and you can't get a job doing it. It doesn't pay anything. Meanwhile, I'll never forget this. I talk about this all. I've read this up before. He brought me into his office and I was like, "What's up?" And he said, "I want to show you this magazine cover I'm doing to show you what real illustration looks like." Because at the time I was still trying to do like book cover stuff. And I said, "Okay." And he said, "You've got a lot of potential, but you need to learn that like the real money's in editorial. You got to stop doing this fantasy shit." And I was like, "Okay, so show me what you're working on." And he sat me down, and he had a photo of the Taj Mahal on his computer. And I said, "That's just a photo of the Taj Mahal." And he said, "Ah, but wait." And he clicked a layer, and suddenly smoke was coming out of the four minarets like they were smokestacks. And underneath it, he had put the title about like the economization of the East or something. And he was like, "Now you see what that says? It's that this beautiful Eastern land untouched by Western capitalism is now economizing and corporatizing." And I was like, I want to fucking murder you. I want to smash you in the face with that fucking iMac. That is the laziest, most obvious. Like I couldn't believe it, but like that's where he's coming from. Is like simple visual metaphors are all that matters, and politics is the goal for all illustration. So it was a very suffocating program. To answer your question, don't go to that school. Anyway, get off that topic before I raise my blood pressure through the roof. I could talk about that fucker forever.
That's great.
Oh my god! And the one where it was when the banks crashed.
Mm-hmm.
He did this illustration for another magazine where it was a guy digging a hole, and the hole was shaped like an upside down top of Congress. And I was like, oh, like, oh no, I just couldn't. But anyway, that's where the big bucks are. Dave, how do you get good at coming up with compositions, like developing the skill to work on movie poster comps?
Study compositions. I mean, that's really it. You want to actually find material that tells you the fundamentals of composition. Don't like wing it and be like, don't just say the word composition. Like actually learn a lot about it. Like I'd mention really old shit that I used to look at, but I don't know if it's still there. There was like some watercolor website that had some good resources on it, and there was like a Phil Straub thing from forever ago.
Oh, yeah, that was on what, CG Society?
Yeah, I don't know if it's still there, but there's just tons of rules for it, and there's a lot of like simple ways to break it down in terms of you could do just like a giant triangle in the center. That could even be a strong movie poster because of the shape of a triangle, so iconic and strong as a shape. That yeah, that would work. And I mean that's kind of what I do is I'll compose an image as far as like how I want the eye to move around, and then I'll put shapes like that in certain parts. Like the Logan poster I did has giant triangle in the middle of it with a circle behind it. You know, just like real simple stuff. But
Yeah, movie posters overwhelmingly lean towards that iconic composition.
yeah, no, it's not conspiracy stuff, Kim.
Whoa, could be.
I guess it could be.
Oh god, I was the guy that drew 1,000 hand drawings. Is it too late for me? Asks this username. Is too long.
Yes. No.
It's too late. Give up. No, it's never too late. Just observe the problem and go, oh, I'm not going to do that anymore.
Yeah, it's never too late to do anything.
Oh, is that. We're not talking about paralysis by analysis, right?
Yes.
Yes and no. That's not the title I was thinking of. But analysis paralysis is a thing.
Yeah, it is like that, but yeah, like when you're preparing too much for something. I mean, it might be that. I feel like it's a different thing though.
Right.
It doesn't really matter. All it means is
It's
that
the same.
you
It's the same idea.
you went and bought all the tools and you felt like you did something, so you didn't do it.
Right.
That's really all it means.
Analysis paralysis is usually more like you have three options and you don't want to make the wrong choice, so you never make a choice and you just constantly weigh all three of them. It's not the same as never starting work on a thing, but it's in that same sort of mindset of like you don't take the step forward. Which game do you think is better, Breath of the Wild or Monster Hunter World? Probably Breath of the Wild for me, even though they're complete opposites. So like Breath of the Wild is huge open world you can explore. The combat's okay, it's whatever. There's not really bosses or anything. Monster Hunter is a smaller world with just bosses everywhere. So it's like two completely different things. Ideally, I'd love a game that could mix the two of those. I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but if I had to pick one long term, it would probably be Zelda, just
Yeah,
because
me
it's
too.
super fun.
It's just way more creative.
Yeah. It's also like, as much as I love Monster Hunter, there's so much shit on that screen. There's so many things to keep track of at all times. It's like, I don't know, just exploring stuff in Zelda is so much more relaxing. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, like simplicity is huge,
right.
and like that's where like mastery comes in. And I think something like Zelda is infinitely, you know, that's the wrong thing I just said. It's
Sunny,
more simple.
much simpler. Sunny Boy says, Dan just married Dave. Missed my shot. Bitch, Kim took him away. And I let her do it. I stood there and let it happen. Anyway.
It's true.
No mountains with debt written on them or a giant wave. Train speeding towards a chasm. No, I wouldn't put it past him, though. I bet he's done those before. Dave, did you ever read into dynamic symmetry?
No, I don't know what
Yeah.
it is.
Is that Devilman? Yes, it is. And he's fighting Batman. This is Devilman versus Batman.
Yeah, that's what this comic is. Devilman versus Batman, page 1.
What did you guys think of Spider-Man Homecoming movie? I think they oversaturated it with the Iron Man tech shit. I actually really liked the movie.
Yeah, I liked it too.
It might have gone a little too far with the tech stuff, but I think it was I think it was their way of
Having him
'cause
talk to himself.
yeah, exactly. In the comics, he's always inner monologuing about everything, and like that's where half the jokes come from. And like you can't do that in a movie, or he's a psychopath. So like he can't just talk to himself. So I think giving him an AI was like a cool way to do that and have it still be funny. It makes sense in the kind of world they're building that would happen. So I didn't bother me. I thought the plot was really good. I thought it's the best version of the Vulture, like the lamest enemy ever.
I thought it
They
was
did
one of their better villains.
yeah, he just the whole intro thing where he's like a blue collar guy and he gets
Right.
fucked over and like the twist. If if anyone hasn't seen it, I won't spoil it. But like, just a really good villain in general, and he's definitely the best Spider-Man.
Yeah, I like the way that they made a small neighborhood story. Like that was really cool.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. And now we get to see him in Avengers: Infinity War, which hopefully doesn't ruin it. If I see one more article about where is the MCU Soul Stone, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm so sick of seeing that shit everywhere.
Do you like
Who
when
cares? Who cares?
do you like when Thorin comes through the portal and he goes, I usually don't think fighting's this fun, but it is. And then he
Thorin?
punches Iron Man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
One
Thorin,
doesn't
long tooth.
normally consider fighting a really good time, but I'll make an exception.
Yeah.
Whatever that line is, whatever that great, amazing line is.
Usually when I fist fight superheroes.
Typically, the universe isn't this easy to fight, but I make it's different now.
But I do it.
But I did it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
I really like the scene where Black Panther goes, the world is on fire and we have to fight and get Captain America a shield. He uses a shield, guys. Did you know that? Get him one. I don't know. I hope it's good. I was super bummed to find out the Russo brothers are doing a Netflix thing next. I don't want them to be wasted on like a shit script. I'd like to see them do something that isn't... What have they done that isn't Marvel?
I don't know.
I don't know anything offhand.
I
Have
think
only
they
done
did
Marvel?
like stuff that was way different.
Hmm. Yo, I think I got the opposite problem of the 1000 hands guy. All I feel like doing is trying to make really cool shit. I find it hard to draw a normal arm or something. Yeah, that's just
That's why
another
cool people don't end up being fantasy artists.
right. Yeah, I mean
It's
that's the
probably
best
the
way to
most
put it.
honest thing I've ever said.
Yeah, it's true though. It's totally true. There's two versions of that. There's what Dave just said, and there's you don't want to do the hard work, so
Right.
you avoid it, and you make every arm into like a Resident Evil 2 tentacle thing.
But usually, like the people who have really great iconic styles, they tend to fall out of like realism into other
Yeah.
things. And when you come back to stuff that takes a lot of realism, you kind of lose a lot of that creative energy that people who focus more on style have. And yeah, like if you, but the cool part about that is if you do have that in you, like you have so many ideas and all these things, if you can just force yourself to
Hmm.
get good at like everything, then you're going to stand, like head and shoulders above everybody else
Right.
in terms of what you can execute.
You guys ever meet a great artist at a con and thought like, dude, let's get Chinese, and who was it? Uh, I mean, Kekai, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's not like it's super rare. Like, you meet a lot of people
Yeah.
and you all have
It's more
something in common.
it's more about like who's comfortable, and like Kekai is the only. I've met lots of people that are cool. Kekai is probably the only one who was like the most comfortable dude I've ever met on like first meeting him.
Yeah,
Like within 5 minutes, it was like, oh, I feel like I've known you for years. Like, okay,
one thing that always stood out to me in general is that, like, I don't know if it's because art is art and people who do art are generally like more like outcasts or whatever,
mm.
which I don't think that's that crazy to say. I mean, like,
No,
and you kind of get this vibe from more popular people. It's not everybody, and this is probably more rare than, it's not like super common that you see this, but I've just had this experience where the only time I don't feel that, like what you're saying about wanting to do something, is if they're like they have an ego about them,
right.
where you can kind of tell that this is like more attention than they've ever gotten,
Hmm.
and they like it. And those kind of people are the only ones that I don't feel that way for. But everybody else, it's like, yeah, who cares? Yeah, let's all go out, do something,
Hmm.
talk about stuff. You always learn new things, and it's always nice to meet people who do what you do.
How do you think the Venom movie coming out later this year will be? Based on how they're marketing it, I think it's going to be absolutely horrible.
Well, it's Sony doesn't have a great track record, but
No, and if they understood the IP, they wouldn't have marketed it the way that they have been. They wouldn't have started off their campaign the way they did if they understood the fans of the IP. So, right off the bat, it's a misstep, and I think the whole thing's going to be bad just based on that. They're already fucking it up, and it hasn't even like gone to theaters yet.
yeah, it's a mistake not showing something.
Yeah, they're going like super serious, which that is over. Like it's DC's pretty much proven that unless you do a super good job of it or add something new to the mix like Logan did, that's kind of done with. Like people want it to feel entertaining, and especially on the heels of something as successful as Spider-Man was, like switching directions to that kind of desaturated Dark Knight look again and having it be like not even showing the Venom suit, and like it just feels tired. It feels like a fan film on YouTube that like huge fans of Venom made that don't understand what to do with it. It's going to be cool and dark and cool and dark and cool and dark and serious, and it's like no,
Yeah,
no,
I mean, I'm more or less coming from the like Sony really hasn't done a good job yet.
no. With like once I can't think of the last thing they did that worked out.
So maybe
Spider.
they can do something with it, but I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see, but I'm guessing it's not going to be great. How do you remedy a cringy, shitty internet reputation? I have a feeling that my friends and peers think I am the worst. I'm afraid that this may affect my future relationships too. I mean, the honest answer is if you're being cringy, figure out what's what's cringy and stop doing those things or take steps to stop doing those things.
Yeah. And then the other side of that is that, like, no matter what you think, and this might sound a little harsh, but I mean this even like for me, for everybody, is nobody really cares about you.
Yeah,
Like, you care about you because you're you,
it's incredibly
but
relieving to
people
realize
don't.
that people don't care.
Yeah, people don't really think about it. Like, they, if you did something hugely douchey, like something that's like reprehensible, like really awful,
Mm.
then maybe. But unless it's something like real bad, then I can't imagine you're bothering a ton of people. Like, you, like, okay, maybe you are a douche. Doesn't mean that, like, you're gonna be that way forever, and you're recognizing it now. So, you know,
Another thing you can do, and I'm not saying you should do this, but I'd say work on yourself first. And if there is stuff you're doing that you think sucks or is cringy, figure out what it is and work on getting better at those things. If that doesn't work, or if that's something you can't figure out how to do, another thing you can do to remedy that is to be less accessible to people. Because
right?
often in the past, I've thought somebody was super cool who doesn't have a huge internet presence and only shows their work. And then I meet them and hang out with them and I go, oh, wait a minute, this dude fucking blows. And then you go, oh, he doesn't talk online because he sucks. I get it. And like, that's another thing is like stepping away from your group of friends a bit or your peers automatically, like having that I'm around, but I'm not always around. I'm not accessible. I don't have a ton of free time is automatically going to make you seem cooler to a lot of people because it seems like you're busy and you've got shit going on. But at the same time, if there is stuff that's actively bothering you about what you do and how you act, work on those things while you do that so that if you do step back in, things are improved.
Yeah, keep things vague. Don't put yourself out there completely. If you're worried about that, don't play all your cards. Just keep it to yourself,
Yeah.
and you're more likely to get more people to like you because you're quieter. But you don't want to be so quiet that you come off like a dick.
And also, one other part of that, I mean, the way you worded it, you said you have a feeling that your friends think that you're the worst. If they think you're the worst, they're not your friends, or you're lying about them being your friends to yourself to make you feel like you have more friends, or they actually are your friends and you just feel bad about yourself and they don't think that about you. It's one of those three. Either they like you and you have self esteem issues, they don't like you at all and you're lying about them being your friends, or you're trying to find a weird middle point where you're saying they're your friends and they're really just colleagues.
Yeah.
Like, identify which one of those it is because chances are it's probably the former or the latter. They might all like you and you just have self esteem stuff to work on, or they might not actually be your friends. But yeah. Could you give a good example of artists who kind of stand above everyone else? Might not be worded the right way, but you get what I mean. I mean, James Jean is up there for me in terms of someone who's worked on tons of stuff that no one ever works on.
Yeah. Who else? People who are like head and shoulders above everybody else.
I mean, Mike Buckus.
Yeah, he's
He's
pretty
just like
special.
a technical monster. Like he can draw fucking anything, and he just kind of he works exclusively on like Disney stuff and Star Wars and Harrison Ford things, and yeah, I don't know. He's just an incredible draftsman. James Jean is probably, I don't know, is he the most successful illustrator in the world?
No,
Who do you think is right now currently making more money than him off illustration?
I don't know, but I can't imagine he's the most successful.
Between the Prada stuff and the movie stuff and the selling his original stuff and
I'm
the advertising stuff and the apparel.
I'm guessing the most successful one is somebody that we don't know about.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, there are people out there who just don't have an internet presence at all.
Yeah,
Who
it's
just
like I'm sure
do
he's
work.
just real good at marketing himself.
I can't think of anyone in the circle of people that we know
No.
that makes more money than
Oh,
probably.
definitely not.
Well, okay, there's one or two, yeah. that do like big contract stuff.
But in terms of what he makes off of like single things,
He's the most
he's
successful.
making like tons, and like in terms of people we know,
Yeah. Who else would you put up there for people that are head and shoulders above other people?
skill wise.
I mean,
Um,
for marketing, I'd say Marco's up there. Like Six More Vodka is crazy successful with that stuff.
yeah, I would say in terms of skill, somebody like Paul Bonner,
Oh, sure.
he stands out as like obviously he's just an incredible painter,
Yeah.
and it's like surprising that he's even doing it, like doing the same kind of work as everybody else in like the entertainment stuff. Like it's really weird to me because
Right.
he seems like he's just better than that, you know?
I'm a really big fan of Sam Weber. I don't know. He kind of disappears and reappears every couple years. I don't know what he's doing in between the big stuff that he puts out, but he's really good. Um, yeah, I don't know. There's not a ton. There's a lot of people that are really good, but people that I'd say stand above everybody else, there's only a handful.
Yeah, like Jamie Jones is still really good.
Yeah, it's tough to put him on the same thing as like James Jean though.
Yeah, it's a different world.
It's totally different because his stuff is purely entertainment stuff. But yeah, it's hard to yeah, you know, it's hard to figure out because even inside something like illustration, there's a million subsets. Sakimi Chan, no, the most successful con artist. Double entendre there.
I say, let, uh, let her do it.
No, I think it's great. I've got nothing against Sakimi Chan. I think it's hilarious. It sucks for everybody that has to table around her, and I've seen that firsthand. But more power to her. She's making crazy money.
Oh yeah, Brad Rigney for sure.
Oh yeah, Brad's great.
Brad's a monster.
I want to see Brad get more stuff. Guys, is there a way to make something entertaining and fun to learn? I have a hard time with learning to draw characters. I find figure and anatomy drawing a little boring and would really like to make comics to tell stories one day. Thanks. I mean,
Yes.
the ease. Go ahead.
I have like a ton of ideas for this. These are
Yeah, go
things
ahead.
that have helped me um, do other stuff, do different kinds of projects. Stop thinking about things so linearly. Like, don't think like, oh, okay, I'm doing anatomy, so I'm doing anatomy. What else is anatomy used for? Like, one thing that helped me a ton was doing animation. It's like if I'm going to draw a million figures, I want to get something out of it. I want to see something move afterwards. So why don't I do animation? And something like that is a really fun way to learn because you're not just doing these blind studies. They're, the end product is something that's pretty cool and that you can share, and people love to see that kind of thing. And if it's successful, then great. And if it isn't, then it's still a learning experience and you're kind of practicing more than one thing at the same time. And it's really engaging instead of being boring. So, like, if you're thinking, I'm going to do a fight scene and, like look at some GIFs online of like anime fight scenes, bring them into Photoshop, break them down frame by frame, take a look at how they're paste and just copy it. Just be like, I'm going to do my own version of this. I'm going to do my own anatomy version of this. Except like when I do it, I'm also going to be referencing an anatomy book so that I can try and get the muscles right. And then just have like a naked form. It doesn't need to have a face or anything. Run through the motions of something that you find from like, for instance, like a Naruto anime like fight scene that looks pretty complicated, and then just do that frame by frame until you have your own thing and you learn multiple things at once and it's engaging. I think stuff like that, anytime you can kind of find a new way to do a study where you're just fully engaged with it, I think that's super beneficial. And that's what helped me a lot, was doing stuff like that, just changing it up, how I think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I would suggest that to anybody who wants to try it.
if you're getting too bored with doing it, the easiest solution to that is to find other people that want to learn it and make it a team thing so you can motivate each other.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, being a part of a group is good.
Always helps. If you're having just that weird, it feels like math homework problem where you just aren't having fun with it, making it a team thing can fix that sometimes.
And no, I'm not a weeb. I just
A little bit of a weeb.
a little bit, but it's just that you really can't find like great animation outside of like a lot of anime, and especially when it comes to complicated anatomy and like fight scenes and exaggeration,
Mm,
they play with it a lot. I mean, you could do Disney stuff, but it's a little different. You know, the anime tends to be more realistic,
right.
and it helps to do studies through that.
Seeing lots of suggestions in the chat for other artists we didn't bring up. I think the reason we didn't bring up a lot of those people is that the question was stands, above everybody else. And like, if the question was who are some really great artists in their field, we could list hundreds of people. But like, we're trying to think of exceptions where they're not just popular to other artists, they're like big, 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 like, like worldwide big. And that's tough because a lot of the people, if you just ask me who are some great artists working in the field, I could list a ton of people, but mostly the only people that know their work by name is other artists. And that's where it gets tough because a lot of people can't get out of that. That's why there's so few people who do. I'd say, yeah, Brahm is probably, he's probably up there. People know who Brahm is. He's done tons of stuff forever.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
he's more of the artist that you're talking about too.
exactly. That's the thing is he's really only known by other artists. Same thing with Kim Jong Ji. He's amazing, but outside of the art community, nobody knows who he is.
Yeah, like one of the fantasy artists that you could point to like that. I mean, if you're talking like living or dead, is like a Frazetta. Frazetta
Yeah,
was like beyond just the fantasy.
right. And I'm not talking just in terms of popularity, like name recognition. I'm saying their art grows beyond the art community and becomes something so effective and recognizable and good that it translates worldwide, not just inside the art community. Like that's the real difference of what I'm trying to think of, and so few artists ever achieve that.
Yeah.
So like, Drew Struzan, you know, but yeah. Do you guys think it's possible to do a Crimson Daggers group again? Probably not with the two of us in charge, unless we suddenly make $1 million.
Yeah. We
Because
need
it
to be able
takes.
to like retire.
So, for example, when people ask for another Crimson Daggers group, they're really asking for two things mainly. They're asking to get Blood Sports to come back and for portfolio reviews to come back mainly. Having a group of people you can work with is also very important, but the big thing that we always get asked for in emails is bring back Blood Sports and bring back portfolio reviews. The reason we can't, we've explained it on here before, the last Bloodsport we did had almost 400 entries. And with just me and Dave running a thing for free, that is impossible. We could lie to everybody and look at five or six and go, this is clearly the winner and ignore the other 300, whatever. But that would be unfair and we don't want to do that. So we just stopped because it got unmanageably big towards the end and it was taking days to judge contests for free and we had to, pay our bills.
Yeah.
But
And this
yeah.
was like obviously before Patreon or
Yeah.
anything. Like you couldn't subscribe to our stream. You couldn't do anything. It was
Right.
just you'd maybe send us money in PayPal. That was
If we
it.
were to bring it, if we were to bring it back, that's the whole thing that sucks. Is from the beginning, we said Daggers was going to be a free resource and nonprofit, which I still agree with because introducing money into it can fuck things up. But if we were to come back and do something like that with the time commitment we put into it, because we were spending about 2 to 3 days a week just on Dagger stuff. If you broke down the hours, that's almost half the work week. It would have to be something we get paid to do because otherwise it's too big. It's basically a second job to manage something that big.
Yeah. Yeah, we're just trying to do something now that's manageable that we
Right.
we can do.
We're not sure where the line is for like there's a line for everything where if you sub on Twitch, it's a little bit of money every month. If you buy our books, it's a good chunk of money every year or 2 years. If we then did a Patreon on top of that, there's a certain point where you cross the line where people go, fuck you, I've given you enough, and they stop. And we don't know where that line is for us, and we don't want to cross it. So, like, I've had lots of people tell us that we should just do a Patreon and fund all the stuff we're doing here on Twitch and bring back portfolio reviews and stuff through Patreon. And it's like, I agree with that to a degree, but it would be kind of weird to run a Kickstarter every year or every other year that makes a bunch of money to do books and then also have a Patreon that funds everything else, because I don't know, the likelihood of huge backlash against that is like massive. So I don't know where I don't know how I feel about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't think people would care, but I'm more coming from it from like a you owe us kind of thing.
Yeah.
And not that like anybody's bad or whatever. Like I don't want to do that. I just don't want to have this expectation looming over us. Like, what if something happens and we have to do something and like we don't have time, but we're getting paid?
Right. I
Like
mean, there's
that's the
things you can
problem.
do. There's things you can do in Patreon where you freeze it, where you go, this month we have to do all this stuff, so we're going to freeze your donations. We're not going to take any money.
Sure.
They built that in because that was an ongoing problem. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe someday we'll try something with Patreon. It's just I have no idea if that would work out. We also right now we're on a weird downswing where like book two's been done forever and it's just been sitting in China, and we've started scripting book three, but we haven't started the art, which is the time consuming part. And like we've got some freelance stuff we're doing as acceptable comics, but we're not super busy right now, so we can do streams and interviews and other stuff. But like there will be points in the year where we're totally slammed, and it's like, how do we squeeze another hour out of the week? Like that will happen again probably in like May.
Yeah.
But yeah,
We'll be able to keep up though. I mean, like I'm in a steady thing right now where
trying.
it shouldn't be bad.
Yeah, I want this to be the one time we say that and it happens.
It will. Now that we're doing the gauntlet of goals and everything, like
Right.
I've managed to fit in dumb amounts of stuff in a day. I'm feeling really good about it.
Is it possible to build a portfolio with only characters like Pathfinder and D&D and use it to get jobs like those? I remember you guys talked about building portfolio some time ago, that you should put a mix of portraits, characters, and illustrations in it. I assume you can, but I'm not sure how likely it is for me to get a job if I only have full-bodied characters in a portfolio. So there's two answers to this. The first answer is yes, you can absolutely get jobs with a character with a portfolio only full of characters. You can work for Pathfinder with that. You can work for D&D with that. But the thing you got to understand about Pathfinder and D&D is that characters and items pay the least amount, and then quarter page illustrations pay more than those, and then full cover illustrations pay the most. So while you can work for the companies with a portfolio full of just characters, you won't get the best paying jobs necessarily, because a cover for D&D I think is like, or for Pathfinder it's like 1500, and a character is like 150. So it's like, 10 characters is basically the same as one cover. So that's a weird thing you're going to have to come to terms with, of like, working for the company and having it in. Yeah, you can climb the ladder once you're there, but if you have time now, it's better to have a mixed portfolio because you'll get higher paying jobs within the company when you do get the work there. But yeah, basic answer to the question is just characters in your portfolio is enough to get work. I'm really overworked, but I just have too many ideas that I want to draw. How do I shut off my brain and let myself rest? I already know that nothing bad would happen. I already know that nothing bad would happen if I did. Also, is Nintendo Switch a good investment? Uh, the best advice I could give for that is to, either in your sketchbook or in a online document that can't get deleted, like on a Google Sheet, every time you have an idea for something you really want to do, write it down in detail and get it out of your head. Because a lot of the anxiety you might be feeling, and that like there's so many things I want to do, weirdness of like you can't shut your brain off, that comes from this thing called open loops sometimes, where there's a thing you want to do that you haven't resolved yet, so it's stored in your brain and every now and then it pops back up. but you're constantly having more ideas because you're creative. So that pile gets unmanageably big to the point where it cripples your ability to work effectively because you have so much going on. It's like a hard drive with too many files stored in it and it slows down. Get those ideas out of your head and put them somewhere safe that you can trust, like in a document on your computer or in a sketchbook that you know you can go back to, and just have a library of stuff you want to do and ideas that you've written down in detail. If you want to do a sketch accompanying with it so you remember exactly the look you're going for, that's fine too. But just for the next month as an experiment, every time you have an idea that you want to do, and if you have a backlog of like 100 already, get all of them out. Put it in that place, whatever it's going to be, and just see how you feel at the end of the month, having all that stuff out of your head and in a trusted place. It will help you a shitload. That's something we both learned from Getting Things Done, which is this great book, and it helps a ton. In terms of getting a Switch, yes, it's a great investment. I love my Switch.
Yeah, I would say that just writing things down is such a great way to empty your mind anyway. You want to think through things that you're looking forward to doing. And so, that's really like the only way I feel to actually get a grip on whatever you have going on, because otherwise you're just kind of floating. And it's like when you're just floating around with all that in your head, yeah, it just kind of ends up feeling like weight. I always
Mm-hmm.
I always open a document and write in like my little laptop and just put down ideas for like story stuff and little things. And even if I don't like fully flesh it out, it's at least like out of my head. I don't have it in there just rattling around.
Will it be possible to be published by Acceptable Comics? We're not sure yet, but we've definitely thought about it. How do you
Yeah.
guys schedule? Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, it would be really cool to eventually be able to help people do something with what we've learned, because we know a lot about what other comic companies charge, and a lot of like I think Image is really good,
Yeah.
and I think as long as Image exists, like you really don't need a whole lot. But if they're hard to get into, then yeah,
Right.
more companies like Image would be great, and that would be kind of what we would want to do, is something where the people who publish through us would own it, and you know we wouldn't have like that kind of control, like because for a lot of like for instance with like um Boom, they take a large percentage of everything. And like let's say you sell your let's say like you make a comic, right? And then you're not making a lot of money because of how it breaks down with a publisher. You're not making a lot on the back end of sales. And then on top of that, like you, let's say you finally get to a place where you're like, oh cool, like they're interested in selling it as a film. It's like that's awesome. But then wait a second, like what am I actually going to turn from this?
Mm-hmm.
And they take 50% of what you make from the films. So like let's say you get an
It's crazy.
option for a film and it's like $250,000 or something like that. You're only going to make half of that, and then everything after that it still breaks down halves, and it's just kind of absurd to me. And I don't think it's fair,
Mm-hmm.
because you know all the work was in the book. But
Yeah.
yeah, something like that would be nice to put out there, just another option if
That's why
we
we
could
didn't go
eventually get there.
go. Let's see. How do you guys schedule scripting, drawing, colors? I'm assuming you're asking how do you schedule like doing the comics to finish them? Scripting always comes first because that has to be completely done before you commit to drawing, or you're gonna have to redraw a bunch of stuff and waste a bunch of time.
In scripting, you don't really hold yourself to anything. It's
Yeah.
very like, this is kind of an overused term, but it's very organic,
Right.
where you don't want to force it. It's whatever's fun.
Right.
Whatever feels good when you're doing it, that's what you should be focused on.
And if it doesn't feel good, stop and come back to it.
Yeah, don't make yourself do that kind of thing. Well, I mean, put yourself in the scenario to do it. Like
Yeah.
don't be like I'm never going to do it because I never
No.
feel like
You
writing.
you have to do it. But if it feels like this particular thing isn't working, jump to another issue. take a break, do something to get your mind off it. Make sure it's fun when you're doing it, because if you're not having fun when you write it, the script's not going to be good.
Yeah, people aren't going to have fun when they read it, really.
After the script is done, we'll talk about what the issue is going to look like, and big moments is always a thing where it's like, okay, what are like the big things in the script that have to be like have to really hit, identify where those are, where they land in the thing. Then Dave will usually do thumbnails. We'll look at those and go, okay, yeah, this works, and then the lines, and then the colors, and then you put the text in, and then it's done. In terms of scheduling it, we usually do all the scripts first,
For
so
sure.
we know, yeah, because with a book like ours where it's 30 something issues, you want to make sure that nothing is too repetitive or you don't tread the same ground accidentally. So we do all the scripts first for the whole book, and then we draw everything and I color it as we draw it. So the drawing and the coloring ends at roughly the same time.
Yeah, and in terms of like coming up, like if you have a better idea that doesn't break the story in the overall arc of the book while you're in the middle of doing it, then definitely chase that because you really only have one shot at making a book. And when you're going through it, so we've done that plenty of times where like we'll be in the middle of the book and be like, this issue is probably the weakest one. What is this? What could this also be? Or what could we put here instead of this that would serve a similar purpose but be more effective in like jokes and whatever. Things like that is something to really keep in mind when you're going to, that you're not like super beholden, but you definitely need a framework.
Oh,
What?
can you mute us for 2 seconds? Sorry, chat.
Both of us?
Yeah, both of us.
Hold on. Hey, everybody. It wasn't anything juicy. I thought it was going to be something juicy, but it ended up just being a zip code error. Dan didn't have my right zip code.
Well, I did have the right zip
I
code,
mean,
but
well, yeah, they said I
UPS
didn't.
UPS called me and then texted me and said, "Hey, this zip code isn't the right zip code for the town you listed," which is true, I guess, but we're going to use that zip code anyway.
Yeah, it's going to get
But
here.
it's for something that has to be overnighted that's very time sensitive. But yeah, sorry about that.
I'm currently looking at Domun Kashu.
Very disappointing, unsubbed. Can't blame you there. You mentioned years ago a 4chan comment about Dan Warren perpetuating the lie that is Dave Raposo. Can you actually repeat it? Because I always think about it and chuckle, but never fully remember it. It was essentially a theory that Dave is a megalomaniacal Machiavellian sociopath, and that he's intentionally faking a friendship with a guy as lame as me who isn't that talented, so it makes him seem relatable and like a good person to all the fans that buy his stuff. Because if he could be a friend of a guy like me, he could be friends with anyone, so it makes him more endearing. So I'm like a pawn in the chess game of business that Dave has decided to use, even though we're 50-50 partners in a company and I've known him since we were 14. But anyway, that was the theory. That's basically what it is that I was a tool to perpetuate this fake version of Dave that he's broadcasting to the internet because he's actually horrible.
Yeah, that was like the old days when we used to do the streams all the time.
Yeah.
But I think that thread's actually gone now. Because I remember looking for it. I love that theory. It's like, yeah, that checks out. Those are the kind of people you make, 400-page books with.
It's I don't know. It's super weird, but at the time we weren't making books, I guess, so
No,
whatever.
we weren't. People are just
That being
maniacs.
said, it's a very good idea if there are any Machiavellian sociopaths listening. That'd be a very good way to seem endearing to a fan base.
It's true. Cause I'm just like I'm part of the 1%.
Yeah, there you go. I'm looking for more questions that I might have missed. Um, People are recommending that we check out something called dynamic symmetry.
Sure.
Sure,
Never heard of it.
put
I
it on the
mean,
list.
just from the last comment.
That reminds me of a comic artist I heard about. Her books sold well enough on a regular basis on top of having a pretty beefy Patreon. However, she would have regular meltdowns about Kickstarters for new books despite having cost of living covered. It was weird to hear about. Well, you don't know what other costs she was paying other than, like that's one thing is you might look at what people are making and assume, "Oh, they're making tons of money or at least more than I am, so they don't have anything to complain about." But you don't know what they're paying for medical bills. You don't know if they have kids or dependents in their family that they have to help out. You don't know if they have tons of debt. There's all kinds of factors that could go into, like, seeing someone making X thousand dollars a month on their Patreon they might not actually net any of that money. It might all be gone after their expenses are covered. So
Yeah.
it's a weird thing where, plus, in general, we can just say this. We had everything covered for our second Kickstarter because we thought we had learned everything from our first one going wrong, that it wouldn't happen again, and stuff still went wrong. So Kickstarters in general, even if the costs are covered, like, financially we're fine on the Kickstarter. The books are made, the costs were covered, we made a profit, but it's still incredibly stressful because things like shipping can go horribly wrong.
Yeah.
So, like, it's crazy stressful no matter what to do a Kickstarter.
Also, like between our two books, we've raised almost like $1 million. And it's not like we're millionaires. Like it's not like even for us, like we did abnormally well on like Kickstarter, and with what's happened with the crowdfunding for both of them, and just the shop that we had online and everything. But we don't really like end up as these rich people. Like we're still like I made more money doing like advertising. Like
Mm.
I made more money doing like other kinds of jobs. It's just because you like love what you do. And even like it depends on what they're doing, but if there's a lot of production involved, like they're actually making physical products, then it's always kind of like, I don't know, it's a lot different than you'd expect. Because like I always thought like if you did that, then you would just end up being like, okay, cool, like we have enough for this and then we can work on the next thing. But you're
Yeah.
still going to need to take on other jobs. You're still going to need to constantly market things and whatever, because production costs are so high and everything else. So you
That's
never
another
really
thing.
know.
At least in the US, like, if you're making past a certain amount, you're getting taxed at almost a third of your income. And it's like, all the rules for how that, like, what you can deduct just changed. And I'm still not completely familiar with how the new system works. But, like, I don't know. I've been paying more in taxes the past few years that we've been doing Kickstarters than I used to make in a whole year. And it's like, it gets kind of nuts at a certain point where you really got to factor in all this stuff when you assume what people are making,
Yeah.
because huge chunk of it goes to shipping costs, printing costs. Kickstarter takes like 5%, and then the credit card companies take 3%, so almost 10%'s gone right off the top. And then taxes take a huge amount, and it's just like, the money you're left over with is a fraction of what you think the people are making.
Yeah.
But
But that being said, it's not like we're uncomfortable. Like
no,
we're we're
it's
we're
fine. It's
doing good. It's
just,
just surprising.
I'm saying that if someone's making if someone's making 50 grand a month doing something and you assume that's a ton of money,
Right.
they might only be keeping, 15 of that or something after all their expenses are tallied up and taxes are taken out. Because if you're making like 100 grand a year, you're getting taxed like at least 25 of that's gone, like right off the bat. So you just gotta keep that stuff in mind.
You got to become a somebody who commits tax fraud.
Yeah, there you go.
And then nobody can ever touch you.
Oh, me? I've got a place in the Caymans.
Mm-hmm. It's called
I'm gonna have to
Muckabuck
go.
Swamp.
I'm gonna have to go in like 5 minutes. Just a heads up.
Okay.
We've been live for a while.
I didn't notice. Sorry, bro. So focused on this Alfred.
No, it's fine, man. I wouldn't have noticed either if I didn't get that UPS text. Any last questions? Concerns? Things for us to cover? Things people would like to know. We'll take 2 more.
I'm just happy you finally got to Alfred.
Yeah, I know. It's been a long time coming. Oh yeah, Dave's going away briefly for a birthday celebration to a mystery place. So I might do some portfolio review streams later this week for people if they're interested in having any. Because, basically taking a freeze week.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty much what this is right now, but instead of this, some reviews.
Mm-hmm. Hey, thanks, Bad Dog. You said we're doing a good job on Kickstarter outreach. Thank you. Try to keep people informed. Delays suck, but I mean, as long as you keep people on the same page of what's actually going on in real time, it's like, that's what you can do.
I know, our delays are just crazy. I just
stupid.
want it to be over.
Such a bummer.
It's like, come on.
I thought we covered every possible situation that could happen this time, and then, of course, Amazon had to change its fees again. Push us right into Christmas. This is my last question. How do you rewire a brain that constantly lives on the internet? Accidentally spent like the last 2 weeks in bed browsing the internet doing absolutely jack shit, and I feel nothing. I know it's bad, but I feel indifferent. I mean, this is one of those things where the answer is
called
obvious.
Apathy.
Yeah, it's apathetic. This is one of the answers that's obvious, but it's the answer is get rid of your internet for a while and learn to live your life without it. You don't need it. You think you do. You don't. You really don't.
Yeah, you're just addicted to it.
I've known people that go so far as to stop paying their internet bill so it gets shut off, so they don't have the option of using it. Like, if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. But like, take a month. Try to go for a week. If you can get through the week, go to a month without using the internet. That's the thing. Just try. Set yourself a time. I'd say once a week, depending on your job, twice a week. Or you go to like a coffee shop or something and you answer your emails, and that's the only reason you're there. You're there for an hour, you answer your sensitive emails, time sensitive stuff, get it done, then you leave. Try for a week, then go for a month, and just do real stuff and don't browse the internet constantly. Like, that's the only way you're going to fix it. It's like any other addiction. You just kind of got to stop, replace it with new behaviors, but you can do it.
Thanks, Adrian. Yeah, I mean, no matter what, it's like the fault falls on us for the book delays and everything. Like, we don't, that's obvious. But like, it's just so frustrating, man. It's like when you make something like that, like outside of the obvious thing of like, of course you don't want to let people down. It's like these are people who made it happen. They supported you. They give you all the funding. Everything, works out well that way. And it's like it's like when you look at it and you go, you guys raised all this money. What's happening? And that feels like shit in the first place. It's like just to, have that out there, because I totally get that, because I've felt that way about Kickstarters.
Right.
And to have it be you and to be like, no, we did it, the work is done, but like, how do you make people believe you that that's the thing? You show pictures, but like, then people still kind of like doubt it, and it's like you're just kind of like, fuck, like I just want to show people the thing that we've been doing for so long. It's like you put in so much work into something, and then it's like the biggest thing we've ever made, and you just want somebody to see it, like somebody to see all the work you did, and it's like not happening. It's so frustrating.
Especially when book 2 is so much better, just quality wise, than book 1.
Right. And we've had like, I'm not really saying anything when I say this, but we've had like talks with people to maybe eventually do something with Steve. And that's another frustrating thing where we're just like, this isn't representative of what it
Yeah,
is.
like you don't even know what Steve is yet. You haven't seen the second book.
Yeah, so like we're sitting on that too. We're just like, we want to be able to show people what this could be.
Because, like, if anyone remembers, we talked about this on previous streams. It was originally one book. Book 1 and 2 were one book. And then we realized that to do it, it would be like almost 800 pages. And we couldn't do that. Realistically, for our first Kickstarter, it was too big and it would be too expensive. So we split it up. So it's like half of what we wanted it to be still hasn't been seen by anybody. So it's just like super frustrating, but it'll be out soon. When do I think we'd be doing portfolio reviews later this week? I'm going to say probably Thursday or Friday. In terms of submitting, just have a site with your current work on it, and I'll ask for submissions in the chat, and then I'll click it from there. We're going to set up an email for it. We just don't have it yet. But yeah, I'll just do it casually this week. Let's do Gauntlet of Goals and wrap up.
Okay, yeah, so check it out. Check out that Alfred. I'm just saving it real quick.
Sean Stephen Barnes, we love you. Even if you never read the book, we'll be disappointed, but we still love you.
Very happy with this page.
Yeah, I'm liking it.
The Alfred drawing came out pretty solid.
Yeah,
I probably gotta fix his mustache, but
that's what we want.
Okay, Gauntlet of Goals. Time to cue that music. Music cued. I'm gonna go to the spreadsheet. Google Sheets. So how was your week this week? Just real quick. Dan,
What's up?
how was your week this week?
My week was good till the second half of the week. The blackout really fucked me this week. My diet and stuff was tough because there was no food readily available. Couldn't work out because of the crazy thunderstorm. Blackout, I was doing pretty good, and then it went off the rails. I took 3 personal tragedy points because of all the money and time I lost with the blackout. But I don't think that's even going to save me. Did some fun stuff this week before all that happened. Went to life drawing again, drove up to Portsmouth, New Hampshire, hung out with people, went out, did things, lived life, had a good time, did a lot of work. In general, really good week. But at the end of it, I got smashed.
Well, I had a great week. This was the one where I said, I'm done losing over and over. I'm just going to go all out and make sure I do everything I can. So I did a lot. I did my diet. I did exercises almost every day. I read a book. I got a ton of stuff done. It was really positive. I felt like this was the beginning of like pretty strong comeback. And I think I got an extra point for Live My Life. Yeah, I did.
There you go.
So, yeah. I know Dan has to go, so let's tally up the points and see who won.
I've got 37 plus 3 for personal tragedy, which brings me to an even 40 points for the week. I had a streak in prosperity. I managed to work every day, even with the power outage. I was able to write stuff, sign stuff, prep stuff for shipping by candlelight, so that worked out. I was good with my habits every day, even the days with the blackout. I wasn't ordering food or doing any of that nonsense. I really just tripped up with the diet and the fitness and the knowledge once I didn't have power. But it is what it is. Even 40 points.
I missed 2 days of diet, missed 1 day of fitness, did every other day for everything else. And I finished a book. So I totaled out to 57 points for the
Wow,
week.
that 10-point bonus for the book is monstrous.
And Kim got 39 points for the week. So, right with you.
Yep.
And now I'm going to do this real quick. So, 36. I'm adding up the month real quick.
Sure. Those 10 points might boost you to a win for the month.
36 plus 46. Oh, that's 41. Okay, so total for me for this month, it actually might be a little higher than this because I wasn't considering the bonus points that might not have been added in, but 180.
There you go.
That's me. Now for Dan. So you had 40 for this week.
Mm-hmm.
And then 46 for last week? Or is that plus 4?
I think it's even 50. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then 47. I like this climactic stuff.
Climactic number counting.
Yeah. And then 43. Wow. We tied.
No way.
180.
That book saved you.
Wow.
What do we do for a tie? We have to both do a charitable deed, and the chat decides which one of us wins. Remember?
Yeah. Hold on, I'm tallying up Kim's.
I can't believe that happened.
I can't believe it either, honestly.
Now we have to out charity each other. Wow.
I wasn't expecting that at all.
That's crazy. Oh no. You and your goddamn books.
So, and then Kim's final is 155.
Oh my god.
So we tied.
We got to set a deadline for a charitable deed.
Yeah, I don't know what we're gonna do.
Do we
How the
wanna
hell did we tie?
I don't know. Do we want to discuss this?
How
when
did we
get-
tie over a month?
That's fucking crazy.
My God.
On a 1-point scale, too.
You didn't suck, Kimmy. You just had a lot going on.
Kim's doing clinicals. She should get bonus points for that.
Yeah, we'll give you just enough so that you're right underneath us.
We'll make it a 3-way tie, so we all have to charity each other.
Yeah, Kim's gonna win the next one for sure because she's about to finish a project.
Shit. That's a huge point bonus.
Yeah, so we both tied so far, and then we have to figure out what the rest is. Oh my goodness.
Boy.
All right.
I might have
Okay.
to do a 24-hour portfolio review stream.
No, don't do that.
All right, we're going to figure out what the deadline is for a charitable deed, and we'll announce it on the next stream.
Wow.
Yeah,
Tie.
this is gonna get bloody.
That was unexpectedly dramatic.
Yeah. Now we gotta figure this out.
All right. All right. Thanks everybody for coming. Thanks everybody who subscribed. Really appreciate it. We got a interview coming up on, what is it?
Oh, March 19th with Brandon Jones, founder of GameTrailers.com and Easy Allies.
Yep. So look forward to that. I'll be out for the next stream. Dan will be here, probably doing portfolio reviews. In the meantime, do you want people to like send them to your Twitter or something?
No, if just keep an eye open. I'll post later in the week from my Twitter at DanielWarren86 when I'm going to be doing the reviews. I'll be live for a few hours, and I'll just take portfolios from the chat. And
Okay.
yeah, just have your most recent stuff up on your site, and we'll do it that way. We'll have an email set up for future stuff, so you can just send stuff there, and we can take it from there. But for this time, we'll do it from the chat.
Okay. All right, everybody. Thanks for coming. We love you. Have a good rest of your day. And keep creaming.
And if you're feeling that need, feel free to watch the previous 2 episodes of our podcast with Dan Avidan from yesterday and Comic Book Girl 19
yeah.
and Tyson before that.
Acceptable podcast. Oh, wait. No, I think that just links to Twitch. I'll link it to the YouTube or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're archived on here.
Acceptable
Anyway.
Comics on YouTube.
All right. Bye, everybody.